Hello, everyone. Welcome to Social Revolution Podcast. Um, this is just my once every few videos show that I put on where we go live and we talk in real time about whatever the topics are going to be. Now, I should probably address the fact that it it wasn't exactly the greatest of ideas for me to go after Andrew Yang so hard in terms of trying to build an audience because because I've really been laying out my case against the Freedom Dividend, which is his universal basic income policy, pretty hard lately, and they're not they're not fans. They're not fans of me. But we'll talk about and basically do what we did in the last episode of this and address the Yang Gang again at the end of the show. I'm representing my team, Bernie 2020, of course, with my mug. And yeah, I mean, internet politics continues being weird, and the news cycle just keeps on turning. But let's actually get down to things. So, first thing I want to talk about today is something I realized, a realization I had. Now, this is probably going to be kind of Matt's Monday Morning Podcast-esque. I doubt anyone here knows what that means. That was my old podcast from a couple years back. I can't remember exactly when I stopped making them, but I did, and now we do this. But before this, last year we had the Abstract Thinking podcast, which is on the Abstract Thinking channel. It's not a thing anymore, but anyway, tangent aside, I came to a realization about literally just the conservative worldview. And I was going to word it like the modern conservative worldview, but it's not really exclusive to our times. This flaw, this fundamental flaw on like the deepest level. I don't know about the deepest level, but on a deep level with literally the way that like the actual conservative ideology, like literally the way that conservatives view the world. And that is basically like, you can back when I was first getting into politics, I was still in the conservative liberal dichotomy, which is a myth. That's an illusion perpetuated by our system in this country at this time in history. It's not how things always were. And that's not, those are not like even close to the fringes of the political spectrum. But conservatives and liberals are like, those are literally center ideologies. Like, and there are many, many, many different types of both. Probably more types of liberal than there are types of conservative, because a liberal can be on any quadrant on the political spectrum, but or the political compass specifically. But I realized that basically, now this is what I was going to say. If you do view politics through that spectrum of just it's literally just like the more left wing you are, the more liberal you are, and the more right wing you are, the more conservative you are. Like if that simple kind of two-dimensional way of looking at the political spectrum is the way you see it, then you might think that conservative literally means conserve, like they're the people who conserve things. They want to conserve things in the way things. Liberals want to liberate something, like. But the realization I had connects back to that kind of naive assumption. And that realization is the fact that the conservative ideology, when you boil it down, is basically just let me keep everything the way it is whenever I was born. At whatever point I was born in time, I want everything to stay the same from then on. That's literally, like, that's when you really boil it down, that's basically what they're saying. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, we could get a little deeper, because what this really means, and what I really truly realized, is that the conservative worldview and ideology is completely tied to the status quo. It's completely tied to the way that things are, and it's completely tied to society. Like, entirely. And they see society as the way that things are, and the way that things always be. But that's not true. That's objectively not true. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of this is capitalist realism, which is basically any assumption that capitalism is real. So, like, when your parents tell you you have to get a job because that's just the way the world works, that's capitalist realism. Because they're saying that this is real. Like, like this is literally objectively the way that things work, which is not true. That's not fake. And deeply ideological. And what do I mean by ideological? I mean, like, well, you're really gonna have to dig into, like, Slavoj Žižek and people like him. Sociology, you're really gonna have to get into to see this. Because that's really what I'm talking about when I say these things. But, like, I don't know if anyone watching this has ever seen this live stream I did back on the old Abstract Thinking channel with somebody named Jinx. And we were just talking, and at one point we were talking about my idea of, like, the human world, and then there's, like, the real world. That's basically what I'm talking about. The human world is like, oh, we go to school, we live in these houses, man. Like, we go to school, we go to work, we do our jobs, man. Prison exists, you know, legalese exists. I got to worry about my car payment. That's the human world. That's not the real world. That's the world that we've constructed for ourselves. Because if humans didn't decide, oh, we'll invent the automobile, oh, we'll do blah 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 blah, we'll have these factories where people work there to build them, and then we'll we'll sell them to other countries and stuff like that, and car dealerships will open up to sell them. If humans didn't do that, then you would not be saying, I need to pay my car payment right now. That's not the real world. That's your ideological world. That doesn't actually objectively exist in the way that we exist as humans in the real world. Okay? So the human world is fundamentally grounded in the human experience. And what do I mean by the human experience? I mean the way our eyes see light, and the way our ears pick up sound waves. Our senses are unique to the human species. I'm not saying we're the only species that can see, because that's obviously not true. But when a dog sees and looks at something with a dog's eyes, he's literally seeing a different picture than you. Because animals see different colors than humans. And A better example would probably be a dog can hear better than you can. So a sound that's loud to you is fucking loud as fuck to a dog. So you understand what I'm saying? The human world, the ideologies, and everything like that is fundamentally grounded in the human experience. Which forms the human perspective. And this leads me to a whole nother idea that I have that, I mean, I'm at this point, I'm just riffing. I'm just talking to y'all. But it leads me to my ideas about the afterlife. Because I think what probably happens after is something that human beings cannot, like, we are literally not capable of perceiving or conceiving of it. We literally couldn't think of what it's like after we die. Because I think we turn, or I don't think it's really a turn, but I think that we basically start experiencing the world in a much different way, to the point where, like, we don't have physical bodies. If you understand what I mean? Like, think about this. Like, to be a spirit, and I'm not talking like a ghost where it's like in a movie where it's like, oh, you're just you but dead. So your senses probably wouldn't change. But to be a spirit, to be literally energy embodied, would mean that you don't have eyes and ears and a nose and a mouth. You don't, like, your experience of life would be radically different. That's just food for thought, I guess. Like that's really deep, but what else would you be here for? Um, but yeah, basically, go back to the conservatism. Conservative worldview is fundamentally based around the human experience in the human world. The point where they literally think that, they allow themselves to believe in mythology. They allow themselves to believe in myths, that, and they tell themselves myths to make the world, easy for them to understand, which some could argue we all do, which fair. We're all human. But the groupthink is a problem, where it's like, mythological ideas like Western civilization. Western civilization is not a thing. You can't trace. I mean, you can. People do this. This is what they do when they say this, but it's not. This isn't actually how it works. You can't trace back, like, go all the way back to, like, ancient Greece and then go to the United States today and, like, trace that line through of, like, oh, Western civilization, all these white societies. Like, you can't, that's not how history works, buddy. That's not that's an oversimplification. But, and literally, Western civilization has never been a united civilization. No, sir. And that's just, it's an oversimplification. It's a shitty way of looking at history and the way the world works. But conservatism is fundamentally built within our society. Like, they believe the myth. They buy into it. They buy into society, and then they want to keep it the way that it is whenever they were born. And I wish I had a more specific example of this so I could really delineate to you what I'm talking about. But it's kind of hard to think of one. I don't know, man. But I just think that's stupid. I think that is stupid. I think, first of all, I don't want things to keep being the way they are, because I think the thing that really breaks people out of conservatism is when they realize that things are not good the way that they are right now. Shit sucks. And I honestly think you need some kind of morality. You need some kind of moral compass to see this. You need a worldly perspective to see that shit sucks right now. Because for conservatives, let's be honest, things would be better for them, I believe, if they handed the control over to us, if we were in charge, the left. Things would be better even for them. Specifically when I say that, I mean economically. But shit might suck for them. But it sucks significantly less for them than it does for the children that they endorse being bombed in the Middle East, for example. So it takes a lot of, or the children that we're literally keeping in cages that they endorse as well on the border. But that basically just goes to show that, like, you ever notice with right wingers, whenever like, they don't care. They literally don't care about other people. Like, they don't care about anything. Like, they don't have like a empathetic response to anything. It's literally all like every man for himself, and I will take what I want. Like, that's the conservative ethos, really. Um, no empathy, enforce apathy among centrists, and be actively malignant towards people. Um, I'm losing my train of thought. That happens easily, which people have critiqued on the Yang video, but we will answer the critiques at the end of the show instead of the beginning like last time. But what the fuck was my point? What the fuck was I just talking about? God damn it, dude. Oh yeah, I was trying to say that conservatives don't care about anything until it happens to them. Like, you'll hear this often from right wingers. They're like, "Oh, I thought immigrants were blah 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 blah," until, or not even that. I don't even think that can be broken among a lot of them. It's more like, "Oh, I don't understand that our healthcare system is fucked up until I get this exorbitant medical bill that I can't pay." You know what I mean? Like, they don't care till it happens to them. Rand Paul went to fucking Canada for surgery. Canada has free healthcare. After Rand Paul called free healthcare tantamount to slavery. This happened last year, I think, or the beginning of this year, if I'm not even mistaken. So yeah, I mean, I don't really think right wingers really give a fuck about the world's issues until they affect them directly, and they won't affect them directly nearly as much as they'll affect the rest of us, because they are arguing from the position of privilege, fundamentally. And I'm not talking about really economic privilege unless they're the rich conservatives. I'm kind of talking like they're the majority on identity wise. They're, because a lot more conservatives are white and Christian and straight and older and male. you know, so they just have it easier. And if you're arguing from the position of conservatism, you are fundamentally politically privileged at this point in history because your team controls most of the government. You got Trump in the executive branch. They still have the Senate, even though the Democrats flipped the House by a small margin. And the Supreme Court now, thanks to Trump, it's majority red. So you're arguing from the position of political power and privilege already if you're conservative. And some identity privileges as well if you're not the rich, in which case it is just rank, raw, I am on top and I want to stay on top type of shit. And that, I want to be clear when I talk about the identity component of that, I'm talking about culture as well. Like, traditionalism is the norm. Gender essentialism is a norm. So they're arguing from privilege in that area as well. It's just a lot of whining, and this is a point that I came up with today in the shower. Why is everybody so angry? A lot of people ask. Well, if a right winger is angry right now, you can be rest assured that they're afraid of losing something. If a left winger is angry right now, both sides are angry. If a left winger is angry right now, you can be rest assured that they've already lost. And I don't mean politically. I'm not saying, oh, Democrats are politically flaccid, ha ha ha, even though they are. I'm just saying, that the conservatives are like, oh no, I won't have the freedom to discriminate against gay people and kick them out of my Chick-fil-A. Ah. Whereas, or like, oh God, my job will be taken by a brown man. Even though it's capitalism that does that. Untethered capitalism that causes outsourcing. And free trade causes that to happen. Which they kind of get because Trump pandered to them in that area of things, along with a lot of other things, to basically to win the election, like get normal people to support him, not just a bunch of fucking racist maniacs and crazy soccer moms and shit. And evangelical idiots. But when the left is mad, it's because, hey, we're trans, we want rights. We're immigrants and we want to just fucking come here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want to be in cages anymore. That's why we're mad. We don't want to have these boots pressing down on our throats constantly anymore. So there you go, man. Second, I'm right now on this topic, so let's move the fuck on to the next one. I was going to talk about climate change in some capacity here, because it's kind of funny. Yesterday, I was hanging out with my friends, and I was literally breaking it down and describing to them like an 8th grade physical science lesson about like rich people are literally making it so that gases are released into the air that stay in the atmosphere. They don't leave. And I just fucking shit my pants. That's okay. They don't leave. They're trapped in the atmosphere, which makes the temperature hotter over time. I don't know why that's such like a terribly hard concept for like right wingers to understand, but I do know why. Now, I'm not saying my friends are right wingers that they didn't understand that. I'm saying I don't get why right wingers don't get it, but I do know why they don't get it. It's deliberate. It's I love big business. I want them to keep doing whatever they want. So science, it's not part of my agenda. Um, but there's this fantastic clip, and actually, I'm gonna do a couple things right now. I'm gonna check and see if the audio on the stream is actually on and working, because the little mic icon right here and the like green circles, it's literally just only one of them is full at all times. So I'm gonna see if our audio on the stream is actually working. But first, I'm gonna fucking piss. So, have fun while I'm gone. Okay. Let's check the audio. There's a clip that I want to show you guys. But first, I'm going to read this thing right here. It's a funny post by Comrade Cora, who is a YouTuber that some of you may know. Let's find that stream. Let's see if we're actually on. Apparently Bernie's live right now, but I don't think he's speaking yet. I think it's just a camera that they have set up, talking about apparently justice and safety for all plan, which is something that sounds vague to me. I don't really know what it means, but let's find stream. I'm not subscribed to myself, aren't I? Yeah, the audio's on. All right, I won't fucking echo anymore. Okay, let's talk about climate change and the right more. I gotta find my watch later playlist. Which is a fucking massive playlist, if I do say so myself. Yeah, it's right here. I wish I did the timestamp so I could fucking find it again, but
I gotta at least pretend to be.
It's Kyle Kulinski on the Serfs. Came out 10 days ago. Where is it? I think it's like 17 minutes in.
It's actually become like it isn't even something that's genuinely accepted by the Republican Party, though, right? Like you don't have a lot of Republicans who will outright
Yeah, it's
say
right here.
climate change is real or we should be doing something about it. Like that's an intrinsically democratic thing right now, correct?
That's true. And actually, I think the picture on climate change is even stronger than that fact, because when there was a meta-analysis done about 4 or 5 years ago, which looked at all of the studies on it, and it was over 99.8% of every study that looked into climate change said it's happening and it's man-made and we need to do something about it. Mm-hmm. So even the 97% number is like a low ball, because that was just a survey of asking climate scientists their opinion. Mm-hmm. But when you go to the actual studies, it's over 99.8%. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to get back to your point about it's exclusive to the Democrats, that's true. But the sad thing is, even though it's exclusive, the belief is exclusive to the Democrats. But now, what about that next step of the concrete policy of fixing it? Yeah. Then you get down to like maybe 15% of the Democrats. Mm-hmm. So it's like, even the people who are willing to say, yeah, it's real, when you tell them like, cool, Green New Deal, right? Mm-hmm. They're like,
is this it?
See, what had happened was about that.
Is this
as a social democrat, or are you for the
I do. I more identify as a social democrat.
No, it's, it's right before that part.
And the sad thing is, even though it's their opinion that it's happening, and which looked at all of,
you don't have a lot of Republican.
Yeah,
this is real. You don't get that without
viciously, because he deserves it, because he's really gaslighting the country, and it has horrendous effects.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck me.
I mean, when you say they convince everyone that it's not, they convince that it's up for debate.
This part, yeah.
Bullshit is built around fixing it,
yeah.
And then climate change isn't because in order for that, I think healthcare is a right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Who are you going to say no to?
Right.
Who are you going to have people's heads?
Right.
The idea, like the default assumption is like, mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think
healthcare
is
a
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Who are you going to say no to?
Right.
Who are you going to make go bankrupt over it? But there's been an entire industry exists to try to beat that idea out of people's heads.
Or climate change.
This part.
People that it's not real.
Right here.
Exact same thing. Yeah. And you got to understand something. They have a built-in advantage, because in order for them to win, we just have to continue debating.
Yeah.
Like for climate change, that's why they have a built-in advantage, because all they have to do, they don't have to convince you that climate change isn't real. They just have to convince you that some people think climate change isn't real. Yeah. So let's keep debating it.
Yeah.
And then as long as you're still debating, you're not doing it, you're not fixing it, and then they win. Yeah. So, and they understand this. This is what they understand, and they're massively funded. And now, listen, like a guy like John Delaney, his whole candidacy is built around, let me tell you what I'm not for. I'm not for Medicare for all. I'm not for free college. And I'm going to give you just a gigantic amount of bullshit to try to convince you that that's the case. And all he needs to do is make people go, well, I guess there's still a question. And that's why they're so insidious. And that's why I go after them so viciously, because he deserves it, because he's really gaslighting the country, and it has horrendous effects.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, when you say they convince everyone that it's not, they convince that it's up for debate. So we're talking about them basically saying 3% of scientists are inconclusive about this, but 97% are.
I'm going to let the clip finish.
Real. You don't get that with a lot of stuff in science. There isn't a lot of different aspects of the scientific community where they agree with a 97% consensus. Like that. Yeah.
Well, not finished, but
like I am shocked that it's taken this long for this to actually become like it isn't even something that's genuinely accepted by the Republican Party, though, right? Like you don't have a lot of Republicans who will outright say climate change is real or we should be doing something about it. Like that's an intrinsically democratic thing right now. correct?
That's true. And actually, I think the picture on climate change is even stronger than that fact, because when there was a meta-analysis done about 4 or 5 years ago, which looked at all of the studies on it, and it was over 99.8% of every study that looked into climate change said it's happening and it's man-made and we need to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So even the 97% number is like a low ball, because that was just a survey of asking climate scientists their opinion. But when you go to the actual studies, it's over 99.8%. But yeah, to get back to your point about it's exclusive to the Democrats, that's true. But the sad thing is, even though it's exclusive, the belief is exclusive to the Democrats. But now, what about that next step of the concrete policy of fixing it? Yeah. Then you get down to like maybe 15% of the Democrats. Mm-hmm. So it's like, even the people who are willing to say, yeah, it's real, when you tell them, like, cool, Green New Deal, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, see, what happened was about that.
As a social democrat, or are you for the?
I do.
All right, yeah, that's it.
But there's really no.
That is it. But that part, my phone was upside down. That part where he's talking about the fact that the right has an inherent built-in advantage on that issue of climate change, because all they have to do is keep people believing that it's still up for debate. He really fucking hit the nail on the head there, because honestly, that dynamic can be extrapolated to a lot of different issues where the right is literally wrong. Like the facts are and the science is literally not on their side. You know what I'm saying? And this is kind of like back when it reminds me a little bit, this whole idea of like one half of the debate just has to keep asserting that the debate should still exist around a certain question. Brings me back to my old days. Again, back when I was really starting to get political. I think I really started with the issue of God, because I was raised in a religious way, and I broke free of it by basically realizing for myself I am an atheist. And I would have said back then that for agnostics, that's literally like that same type of situation where it's like, stop making this look like an equal debate. There's no evidence on their side, so why are you acting like it's still a question? There is no God. But now I have a little bit more of an open perspective about that, and I would consider myself more of like an agnostic atheist type. But I'm not one of those people who's shy about the atheist label now, even though I could and will make a video about how that community has went and exactly, like, you know, just talk about internet politics nonsense. But that really, like, that really points out the fact that we cannot afford, we don't have time to deliberate and debate the question of, is climate change real? Because it's obviously fucking real. But you'll notice, and because it's becoming more and more obvious, and we're getting even later and later and later and sinking more into the climate change hole that we keep digging for ourselves, the right has to pivot to, oh yeah, it's real, it happens, but it's totally okay, and we don't have to worry about it, and it's not man-made. Which, that's a position that clearly blows that whole debate out of the water as well, but in a way where it's just one of those non-starters where it's like, okay, so this person literally just thinks like, or this person will literally do anything to prevent themselves from going against the grain. You know, they'll convince themselves of anything. And that is largely true across the board for right-wingers in general. They will largely convince themselves of anything. But yeah, I just wanted to play that on the show and talk about that a little bit and share that with you, and really strongly point out that we don't have time to keep debating on that. We need to move on to, okay, let's do something about it. And moving on to the is it man-made or not question, is progress beyond the is it real or not question, but it's not. Even when you recognize it's real, and even when you recognize it's man-made, like Kyle was saying, you need to do something about it and have a concrete policy position. And that's very few people. Bernie is one, but that's very few people right now. So, I mean, you can't. I feel like you really, at this point, and even like the person who I did abstract thinking with, Nick, even he admits climate change is man-made and climate change is a problem and climate change needs to be resolved. I don't know how he feels about like the Paris Accords and shit, because he's honestly very partisan, where it's like if the right wing establishment tells him something, he'll believe it before he'll believe like the actual truth. So you know what I'm saying? But he's not. He's. Don't get me wrong. He's a free thinker. As much as one can be a free thinker, he thinks for himself. Anyway, I have the utmost. Like, I respect Nick more than I respect anyone else in the right wing. Anybody. But let's move on. Should we move on right now? Let's move on to talking about like here's the deal. Here's the deal. I don't want to move on yet. If if you do think for yourself, if you can allow yourself for a second to stop being such a bootlicker to the corporations and say, yeah, climate change is fucking real. Climate change is fucking happening. And it's our fault. And maybe we should do something about it. You can still be a fucking right winger if you say that. Like, it's not fundamentally left wing to want to save the planet. It shouldn't be anyway. It's crazy. But yeah. So there's my olive branch. But we can move on to talking about the Yang Gang. If this is really the end of the show, I mean, I have some ideas for videos this week that'll come out. We need to talk about Tom Steyer again. We need to talk about Elizabeth Warren a little bit, I think. We need to do a lot of things. I need to publish my idea of communism analysis. I got work to do. Because people are dumb. And this really showed me that I do have a lot of work to do, and I really kind of wish I didn't jump in the deep end with the Yang stuff and really like jump into the deep end with it and start talking about deep like abstract reasoning about the ideological part about it, like moving the variables around in your head, you know. Apparently these Yang Gang people aren't that good at that. Some of them are, but I don't think they really got the whole like thing I was saying about how it's based more on hierarchy than need, and that makes it fundamentally right wing, and how it would make benefits obsolete in a certain way, but not obsolete in a needs way. And obviously, any kind of left-wing politics has got to be grounded on human need in some level and the fulfillment of that, especially Marxist politics. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to push Yang into the Marxist area. He's not anywhere close to a Marxist, but let's see what they had to say. Why not? Let's just go to the video itself. 220 views. 50 dislikes. 50 fucking dislikes, my friends. We got a lot of comments here, and I'm gonna read my emails live as well. I think you guys get more light when I go on that tab, don't you? Okay, I probably look paler. So I actually interacted with one of them. I said, your benefits would be brought up to match the, or I didn't say this. Brandonian said this. Your benefits would be brought up to match the benefits gained from UBI if you chose to opt out of the dividend and choose your current welfare. But that completely contradicts the point I was making about how you actually get more from the benefits that you get that isn't UBI. Most will still opt into UBI, Brandonian continues, anyhow, because it isn't conditional and can spend any way you so choose. Also doesn't force you to jump through hoops in order to actually receive it. That sounds like just a cliche colloquial term. Jump through hoops. Off with a nice, which is a common thing amongst these Yang people. And I said, but I responded to Brandon. I said, but if I have a disability and therefore need care, I can't exactly choose to not use the Yang bucks on that care that I need. That's an illusion of choice. Thomas Terrell, when he says disability, that doesn't mean all disability. The Freedom Dividend does not stack upon disability benefits. It stacks upon benefits for the elderly, specifically Social Security and Social Security disability benefits. That's all it stacks on. I literally went. Before this person, Jason Stoll, who I think left his own comment. Yeah, he's the one who left the long one. Responded to me here as well. Brandonian didn't, which I'm surprised by. And said, because I think he really can't answer my point. That's an illusion of choice. Jason Stoll linked, he said, please go through his policy, which I actually fucking did. I did this. I went to his policy. I looked this up when they started telling me that the Freedom Dividend stacks on Social Security benefits. I looked it up. It does, but for the elderly only. That's all it stacks on. It's like these people don't realize the fact that the government does more than Social Security, or at least if it didn't, it should. Like, do you see what I'm saying? The Freedom Dividend. Now, I like Yang's website. I like the way it looks. I like that he has guiding principles of equality and freedom. Those are my guiding principles, but informed by Marxism, not informed by this technocratic libertarian right kind of stuff. And yes, it does. He literally says it stacks on disability and Social Security disability and Social Security, which we will get back to, because let's look through a couple more of these comments here. somebody, WM, literally just said the word no, which, whatever. Tenzin Weiser said in all caps, progressive is the word, which he also linked to a Richard Wolff fucking Q&A called Understanding Marxism, which, I mean, I think which I liked and hearted, because I think that Tenzin Weiser is on my side. But Gavin Nash said, try harder next time. Don't worry, I will. I think someone just left a new comment. Sass said, where are you high when you made this video? Like, where with an H, not were with just the E-R-E. If only Kane were able, replied to Sass and said, probably worse than that, but essentially yes. I don't even know what that means. And then Sass responded with, I feel like I'm listening to this, and it links to the Miss Teen USA 2007 answer, which is just fucking so dumb, because there's a big difference between a gaffe on live TV from some dumb model and somebody making a substantive critique of your policy position. Oh, that's not a new comment. Never mind. It's right here. Relax Music said, when all them people have their healthcare freely available to them, they won't need those disability benefits anymore. Now, this is weird. This whole idea of Medicare for all, which Andrew Yang is for, supposedly. I don't really trust anybody that says they're for Medicare for all unless they're Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders actually wrote the damn bill. But this idea that Medicare for all will make it so that the disability benefits aren't needed. Well, you can't eliminate a need unless you literally make it so they don't have disabilities anymore. That was one of the points I was making. Relax Music continues and says, I imagine that would be included in the Medicare for all healthcare plan. You are not seeing the bigger picture. You, my friend, are not seeing the bigger fucking picture. When MSM talk about, which mainstream media, talk about Yang2020.com, UBI/Freedom Dividend, they cost at over $3 trillion, which means that is everyone. Which means that is it will end up stacking on top of everything. What the fuck? It literally won't. What do you mean it will end up stacking on top of everything? That's such a stupid thing to, like, did you even read the policy? It doesn't stack on welfare. It doesn't stack on welfare. Oh, it'll end up doing that. No, what? Yeah, maybe if Yang changes the policy. He's not even done, or they aren't even done. The beauty of it is that it is opt-in. It will not be forced on you. It will simply be made available to you. This person, once again, does not understand the concept of the illusion of choice. And I don't think that they really understand that a lot of stupid people would be like, oh, I want $1,000 straight up because it sounds better. Even if that does not fucking help you as much as your pre-existing benefits would. But I don't think he's really talking to me. I think he's talking to the mainstream media when he says that. But they continue, it's your choice. Like going out and buying a burger or whatever, that will bring the cost down because people won't need it. Some won't even know about it. Some will be too proud. So many reasons to get it and not get it, but it will be available. No one is trying to spoon feed you. I wasn't even making that kind of a point. Like, I feel like this person didn't watch the whole video. And he's just kind of a Yang talking point. Freelance said, good effort but wrong title, therefore thumbs down. The title of the video is Why Andrew Yang's UBI is Bad. And I told you why Andrew Yang's UBI is bad. Because it doesn't stack with welfare. Next comment. Jason Stoll's original comment here. He says, I was with you until you said that. Now, this is probably my favorite comment next to the one that I was actually able to reply to in text form. Because it's actually substantive and I can actually tell this person watched my video. I was with you, Jason Stoll says, until you said that Yang's Freedom Dividend didn't stack on SSI and SSDI. I didn't say that. I didn't say it doesn't stack on Social Security and Social Security disability. I didn't say that. I said it doesn't fucking stack on the welfare state or the social safety net, which is a more accurate way of describing it. We don't have a welfare state. That we have already, which means welfare. He says, sorry, kid. I don't know if this guy's actually older than me or not, because people will call you kid, and then they realize that you're like actually 2 years older than them, because they just think they're better than you automatically. But sorry, kid. You're obviously intelligent, but you lack wisdom and experience enough to be taken seriously. That's bullshit right there. That's high fucking key bullshit right there. First of all, I don't even think you need wisdom or experience. That's such a vague, and wisdom is vague too. I kind of fucking hate wisdom, actually, because it's usually just little stupid, useless nuggets that aren't actually like that you can literally apply to anything. And experience in what field? I don't give a fuck. Like, what do you mean by experience? That just pisses me the fuck off. But he says you came off as scatterbrained and stoned, which I was not high when I made this video. I was not high whatsoever. I was very stone cold sober. You mess with your hair so often, I kept thinking to myself, dude, tie your hair up already. It's distracting from what you're trying to say, and you keep losing your train of thought. This is literally just a fucking tick type of situation, playing with my hair and shit. Just what I fucking do. It's not the reason I was losing my train of thought. Best of luck to you on all your other videos and future endeavors, but this video was hard to watch and only served to remind us of how people who don't do their fair share of objective analysis of a subject can be misled/misleading. Well, thank you for the luck. Thank you for wishing me luck. But no thank you for saying that I didn't do a fair and objective analysis of the subject, because I fucking did. Now we got more Yang ideologues here. Alicia C. He's not left or right, he's forward. Which is, that's literally Yang's, like, one of his mottos. Like, that's one of his things he says in interviews and on TV and shit. And let me break down exactly how fucking stupid that idea really is. You can't just come out and say, like, I'm not right wing, I'm not left wing, I'm forward wing, because your idea of what right wing and left wing means is different from literally everyone else's. And it's probably different from the actual objective as something like that could be, meaning of what left and right means. Because basically what that's saying, that's like a, I'm not partisan, man. It'll help both sides. Like that's fundamentally grounded in realism about the way that our system is structured. That doesn't mean that his policy isn't fundamentally politically right wing. That doesn't mean that. Because you can't say I'm not right wing, I'm not left wing, I'm forward wing, man. And then do things like, and I'm not saying Yang will do this. This is an example. And then cut taxes for the rich. That's fundamentally right wing, no matter what you call yourself. I don't care what you call yourself if you're a political candidate. If what you do is right wing and you call yourself nonpartisan or non-ideological or whatever the fuck you want to believe you are, you're still a fucking right winger. So he's not trying to side with anyone. Yeah, that exposes the way that you think about politics completely as like a team versus team thing instead of like a ideas thing. He's trying to find the best solutions to the ever-growing problems in our country. Which is like, yeah, I hope he is. I hope he's a good faith actor. I hope they all are. Even though they're not. Tom Steyer. And then she leaves another comment with a little smiley face, says, do more research, please. That has 4 likes. That just shows how much these Yang people love telling people to do research, even though they don't even do the correct amount of research on their own guy to see that the point I'm making is right. But we have one more comment to read, and then I can read the emails as well. He says, the mind of Brandon says this. Well, I had trouble following some of this video, and honestly, I think I tuned out at some points. Yeah, I did too, making it. But you got my attention when you mentioned that you didn't like the Freedom Dividend because it doesn't stack with disability and those other welfare-like programs. I still think, well, and just welfare, period. I still think Yang should win so that I can get the 1K per month. This guy literally fucking admits right off. He's like, I want $1,000 for free every single month. That's politically, my motivation is to get money. That's for myself. And he says, but that's obviously not why he he just came out and said, I still think Yang should win so that I can get the 1K per month. Which is clearly like an argument from some kind of position of some kind of privilege. I'm not saying your problems are illegitimate. I'm saying that you have the ease of saying that because you don't have a disability. Or I don't know. I'm not going to assume. I'm just saying. It's not the rich. It's not just the rich that will get richer. The mind of Brandon continues. The poor and middle class will get richer too. But you don't understand what that means. If everybody's getting richer, then nothing is changing. Because look at the way that scales. And then think about what I said about the landlords. And just think about that. And then you realize, oh yeah, it will just be the rich getting richer. Because if you actually follow my logic that I laid out in the video, then you'd probably fucking realize that's the point I was making. That said, part of the reason it doesn't stack with disability is because the disability checks are better pay. That's a bad reason. That's why it's not good that it doesn't stack with. So people with disability pay are already getting a better deal. So we can save money on funding the dividend if it doesn't stack with disability. What the fuck? Who cares about saving money for the government? What the we can save money. What the fuck are you talking about? It's not your money. Don't get me. It's not your money, buddy. Don't get me wrong. I agree that the two should stack so that we can help people with disabilities even more. Wait a second. He says it's good that it doesn't stack, but then he says they should stack. What? This guy's on my side the whole time. I suspect that Yang will extend this to them if he determines that there will be sufficient revenue to do so, because he already did that with Social Security. Why doesn't he just go full send then? Go full send, Andrew Yang. Do it all. Please, I'm begging you. Originally, he wasn't planning on allowing Social Security to stack with the dividend. I know, but now he is planning to let the two stack. So I think he'll gradually allow more to stack with the dividend as it becomes more and more evident that it is possible to do so. It is possible to do so. That's my problem. It already and always was possible to do so. It's not. Andrew Yang needs to crunch all the fucking numbers, not just some of them. So if Yang becomes president, there's at least a possibility that they'll be stacked at some point, but if he doesn't become president, they definitely will never be stacked. Yeah. Unless we just say, hey, Bernie, just add UBI to your existing SOCDEM plan. But yeah, those were the comments. That was the comments section. I don't need to do more research. I don't need to go to his fucking website. And I wasn't stoned. Let's check my email. I have no emails. Okay. So nobody really fucking emailed me about this, even though I say you can. I don't know if you guys know this, but my email is socialrevolution2019@gmail.com. Email me. We can talk about anything you want. No one has yet, but yeah, that's the show, folks. So I hope you enjoyed this installment of the Social Revolution podcast. Don't forget, Social Revolution 2019, Social Revolution 2020, Bernie Sanders 2020. I'm feeling the burn, and I hope you are too. I will see you guys next time.